Good evening. Welcome, everyone. This is the Regional Governing Board for the Career Development Center. Today's date is November 5th, 2018. It is 6:05. I'd like to open up the meeting by welcoming everyone and public comment. And seeing nothing, I will move on to the consent agenda. We have minutes from the Regional Government Board full board meeting Monday of October 15th, 2018. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Franny motion, and John second. Discussion?
Second.
Discussion?
Not on this particular
Well, then you can hold on, can't you?
item, but who's taking notes for us tonight? Because we don't have
Sandy.
a reporter here.
Well, I'm sort of helping a little, but Mr. Bump will be monitoring the YouTube as well.
Okay,
Okay,
We won't miss
thank you.
okay, that's good. All right.
Or the agenda was in the paper today. Thank you.
I thought I had to get that out before we go too far.
All right, good. Everybody's happy. Seeing no comments other than those, please raise your right hand if you're in agreement. Should be unanimous. Payroll warrants, number 11, number 1016. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Randy motion, Leon second. Any discussion? Seeing, hearing none, please raise your right hand if you're in agreement. Unanimous. Vendor warrants, 1017 and 1018.
So moved. Second.
Randy made the motion, Ken made the second. Discussion. Seeing none, please raise your right hand if you're in agreement. It's unanimous. Yes.
It's in the consent agenda.
Yes. Okay. In the Dropbox, there should be a letter on the cash flow, the revenue and expenses. We have committee reports, I believe, just from policy. Correct, Leon?
I don't know whether anybody else did or not, but we did.
There you go.
The policy committee met today at 3 o'clock to review the procedures and elect a new chair for the next year, and that occurred. I took it again in terms of being the chair. Leon did. So, and we got to meet the replacement lawyer for Bruce Lee Clark, which is going to work together on the with the committee to look at the policies. We had quite a few individuals there, which was good, and quite a few things to discuss, and we made out an agenda for next month. We basically agreed to meet every second Monday at 5 o'clock, unless there's other circumstances that deem that inappropriate. But that's basically what took place today.
Thank you, Leon.
Yeah.
And thank you for agreeing to be the chairman again for another year. Okay, we can move on, I believe, to action items. I have in front of me the resignation of Rob Bailey. Is it Bailey or Bailey? Bonnie, okay. And I should know that he's been on our, as a board member here for the last several years. And it says, hello, Ricky, I'm working, excuse me, I'm writing to inform you that I'm resigning from the RGB of the CDC effective today. I've enjoyed serving with you and the other members. Rob, that is with great regrets that you will no longer be on the board. However, we'll move on to our next action item, which is the nomination of a workforce and education training coordinator. Would you care to carry on, Mike, please?
Sure. Excuse me. Last month's meeting, the board approved reinstating a position that was adult education as a new workforce education and training coordinator. We had 11 applicants for the position. There were 3 applicants that were scheduled to interview. We put a team together, about 5 or 6 people, as you can see there. Rob was the unanimous choice of the committee. He brings a strong background in adult education, workforce development, and disability services, and we're looking forward to having him on board. He's done post-secondary work for 10+ years, so I think he's going to lend his expertise really well to the position of workforce ed and training coordinator. We're looking forward to having him on board, but we'll miss him as a board member, quite frankly.
We need a motion to accept this resignation and this appointment? Do them separate or together? Let's do the resignation first, folks. How's that?
So moved.
Ken made the motion,
Second.
and Leon second for the resignation. Any discussions?
With regrets.
Thank you. Other than that, if you're in agreement, please raise your right hand. That is unanimous. And then we have the motion to accept Rob Bailey, excuse me, Bonnie, as the new Workforce and Education Training Coordinator.
So moved.
Ken made the motion, and who? John made the second. Any other discussion? Yes, Ed.
He's gonna be he's got a provisional license at this point?
As of this morning, actually, the AOE had granted a provisional
Okay.
license. So, what
Does that mean he's gotta take courses like a teacher would?
the AOE will determine that. The provisional allows the employee to work under a temporary license, while the AOE determines what coursework they may need or may not need
Okay.
to actually apply for the level 1 license. A provisional is good for 2 school years. Being that we're partway through a school year, this will be good for about a year and 8 months. It'll expire on June 30th of 2021. Yeah.
Any other discussion?
Well, he's shown a lot of smart thinking here on the board, so I'm in favor of him in the position.
I think we all are. All in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous.
Thank you. And you'll see him next month, board meeting, here to talk to you all.
We've gotten all the way down to superintendent's report.
All right. So in your Dropbox, hopefully you have that. There's a couple items I want to bring to your attention, primarily around enrollment and also roles within the center. The first one I'd like to point out to you is the FY19, which is this fall semester of our enrollment, which is, we have 381 students this semester, which is almost exactly the same as last year. So we're fairly flat. If you're to turn that over or look at another sheet, you'll highlight it in the back, you'll see our 6-semester average. This is actual number of students, not FTEs. Back in the 2nd semester of 15, going forward, we had 298 students, 360, 301, 381, 333, 385, and 381. And that's where we're at. Our new estimated 6-semester rolling average, the state is estimating to be approximately 156 FTEs, and we have 162 FTEs this semester. So what's interesting is we have about the same number of students with increased FTE counts, which means that students are spending more time with us or have a more diversified schedule, and they're literally spending more time in the classroom, and or they're on work-based learning, which are add-on minutes. So while the number of students hasn't grown despite declining populations everywhere, we've been able to maintain, which I say is as good as increasing, although I'd like to see more students. We've been focusing on capacity, as you know, in the last few years. I think it's interesting to look at the breakdown of where our students come from, what sending towns they come from, and where they don't come from. So I'll be happy to answer questions on that piece.
How do you flip the page over on the computer on your?
It might be a separate Swipe left, swipe
You
right.
said flip the page, and I'm saying it's no other side on that. I can't flip that page.
There's only one page.
You're right, there isn't. I apologize. I'll get copies and pass this out to you. I thought I had it. Anyway, I'll get that to you. I apologize. You can't flip for it. This one you can flip back and forth because it's a hard copy. It's in your Dropbox, but I wanted to provide a printed copy for you. I'd like to compare ourselves to others because I think it's important. Sometimes we figure out, like, you know, where are we at in comparison to other tech centers? And I know I did this last year, but I'm bringing it to you again for our 6th semester average, where we are in the state in comparison to other technical centers and institutions. If everyone gets that. Right off the top, as I ask you to do every year, Center for Technology Essex, please cross it off the list because we can't compete with Essex any day. They're full-day programs and they have a lot of students to pull from. So if you go,
Are they
sorry.
self-contained? Do they do their own English, math, science, and stuff?
They do. They're not diploma granting, but they do their own academics, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
where do they get a diploma from?
From their sending high school, whatever that high school that would be,
okay.
whether it's Burlington, Essex.
Is that something the state doesn't allow to be given a diploma?
Yeah, the tech centers just aren't structured that way to be a true comprehensive high school. Essex is the closest there is in the state, but it's a great model.
Yeah, for sure.
Also Stafford, which is Rutland, they're also a full-day program. So that puts us, you can see where we are at our 6th semester rolling average of 156 FTEs. Again, that's not students, that's FTE counts. You can see we're fairly close with Northwest, North Country, and Hartford. So we're near the top 3/4 of the list. What's interesting, if you look at other schools that are the same size as us, Wyndham Regional Career Center, which is down near the, not the bottom, but that'd be over in Brattleboro. They're only at 123 FTEs. Burlington Tech Center, 120. You can read these. Riverbend, 113, all the way down to 45. So we're doing pretty well.
Where's Cold Hollow?
Cold Hollow is as far northeast or northwest as you can get. I forget which side of this. Yeah, it's way up there. They have only a handful of programs. It's a fairly, I think they have 7 or 8 programs.
I like their name.
It's a pretty small school. But thank you. So I hope that's helpful to see. I think it's always helpful to compare to others about how we're doing.
It would be interesting to see the numbers versus how many students are in the high school.
Right. Yeah. We don't get that kind of data from the state about how many students are sent from each sending school, but it would be very interesting to see
For instance, do you know our percentage?
You're going to quote me here. I do. It's, if you look at this sheet here, which is the one that you couldn't flip, you can see the spread of students there. So if you take Bennington, North Bennington, Pownell, Shasberry, Woodford, that would be your MAU percentage. And then you took Arlington, that's its own district, and then the towns of Danby, Dorset, Manchester, Peru, and the other out of state. So it's about 85 to 88% from the districts that make up Mount Anthony, and the remaining would be the other towns.
Oh, no, I meant the number of students in each one of these areas versus how many students, yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have
It'd be
that.
interesting.
It would
to
be.
have that statistic.
Yeah.
Mount Anthony has approximately 860 students, and I don't know what Arlington has. And those are the 2 biggest schools in the district.
Burton's the second largest at 750 some students. Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't get anybody from Burton, right? Because we still have the rotating schedule. That isn't compatible.
We have 3 students from Manchester, but actually we have 7 students total from the Burton district, but certainly not the number we'd like to see by any stretch of the imagination.
I think what Jackie's trying to get at is, for instance, let's take a look at Hannaford, for
Sure.
instance. How many total students are eligible to go to that school versus
see what
how
you're
many
saying.
do versus like Mount Anthony? Let's say there's
You know,
1,000 eligible, and
if
they
you-
pick up 385.
If you want for the next board meeting, I mean, I don't want to call all 16 centers, but I'd be happy to pick some of the ones that are similar of size and similar FTE
Right.
counts and see what their sending districts look like, and it's not that difficult. I'd be happy to do that for you.
Well, I think that would show how successful we either are or aren't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great point. The other piece that's attached to the back of this, just another representation of student enrollment, you know, based on the top 4 or 5 schools in the state, which we are one of them. For some reason, if you look, and I have my own theories on this, but our enrollment is the dark kind of pinkish line there at the top. It bounces quite a bit, as you see, compared to other centers, where it does tip off, but it doesn't. It's not up and down like a heart rate. And we see that primarily because of the second semester drop-off of students who leave our programs for various reasons. And we see it every single spring. It's a fairly large drop-off of students who don't continue to attend their classes because they don't need to, based on their high school graduation requirements. So that is something that we struggle with for our year 2 programs, particularly second semester. There are some other factors that go into that.
You know why it is? Like, do they go over BTC or, CCV and take classes there?
There's multiple multiple reasons why a student may not stay with us the second semester. It could be because of a dual enrollment class at CCV. It could be due to early release or late entry, you know, not necessarily having a full schedule. I mean, there's a laundry list of reasons why. And some of them are very valid reasons, quite frankly, and other ones I'm not sure that I agree with, but I don't get to make those decisions ultimately, so.
But we have the second highest enrollment, correct?
If you take out Essex, yes, we have second to third highest enrollment in the state, yeah.
If Mount Anthony increased the graduation went back to the graduation requirements that were in place a few years ago of 26 credits, would that eliminate or moderate the swing in enrollment?
I don't want to say for sure that would correct it, but I think that, you know, it may not hurt the situation at all. I think that all students should stay in school and have options to graduate, including those dual enrollment options in early college and in advanced credentialing. But I'm a firm believer that students from all sending schools, not just Mount Anthony, should have full schedules. And I know that I may not be popular saying that because seniors want to get out early, and it's happened. I got out of school early as a senior, so you know, here I am 20 years later saying, oh, we should have full schedules. But it's what's best for kids at the end of the day, and it's here. Our center's here for them while they're in high school. It doesn't cost them anything, and it doesn't mean they have to jump into a program here to make that their career. They can jump into a program to gain valuable skills that they can fall back on if they need to, or to supplement their education going forward. So it's, you know, I know I'm preaching to the choir here with our board and our public, but we're working on it, you know, one day at a time and one issue at a time. And I think that, I know that we're on a good path for success. The center's in a real unique place, I think, for the first time in a long time, where we're looking to capture not just our high school students, but, you know, we're doing special arrangements with our work-based learning and students taking, you know, some adult courses and taking our CDL. And we have some kids coming in at 6 a.m. 3 days a week, so they can take our CDL program. Or they're coming in at nighttime to take the LNA program. And now we're not talking 50, 60, 100 students. I'm not pretending we are, but we're starting small and being successful with it. And that's why, you know, we see a need for a couple of these increased positions, including workforce ed and training. there's no reason that this institution can't operate on some post-secondary level for, year 13 for advanced credentialing for students who either can't afford to go on to school or college, don't want to go on to college, and that's perfectly fine, and want, little to no student debt and have a decent paying career. And we serve that entire population. So I'm very confident that in the next 4 to 5 years, I think you're going to see a lot more, I would say, varied options and increased access. Do I think you're going to see that number of 385 jump to 585, 485? That'd be great, but I don't see that happening. If we could get more students from the Manchester area and from Burton Academy, the 7 students we see out of 750-ish, that's a very small percentage. And I don't fully know all the reasons why. I'm sure that part of it is transportation. It is 35 minutes plus down and back for perhaps an hour and a half or 2-hour program. I do see that, but I also know that we're just not serving the population as best as we can, and we want to improve on that. So, are there questions I can answer? This is good news. This is all fairly good news. The other thing that I wanted to draw attention to, and hopefully it's in the Dropbox, you don't have to flip the page. Before our interview process for the workforce and ed coordinator and also the outreach coordinator, one of the members of the committee said, I'm happy to serve on the interview committee. Thank you for asking. But can you tell me how I don't understand how all these positions fit together necessarily, and what their individual roles are, and what are shared roles. And so in my mind, I come up with this kind of, I call it a flow chart, but it's not really, of what the workflow looks like for folks that are in these positions, including the overlap that there is. Does everyone have that? Kind of looks like, if you've got it.
May I ask a question before you dig into this?
Yep.
You have 2 bubbles here. One is titled Workforce Education Coordinator, and the other one is Work-Based Learning Coordinator.
Right. They're different.
Okay. I didn't realize we had 2.
So work-based learning coordinator, that's a position that's required by the state, and we've had for forever. And that is primarily based towards our daytime, non-adult students. So if I'd like to walk you through a little bit of this without reading it all to you. And so what we try to do with this is not define every single task that's on someone's job. It's the roles that are within the organization. And so when you look at the community outreach coordinator on the top left, primarily their oversight is digital media and print media, school website, press releases, alumni connection, summer tech, awards banquet, branding and marketing. And you can see where there's overlap there with the guidance coordinator when developing the program of studies, connecting with social media and schools in a 6 to 12 engagement. You can see where the guidance coordinator has their own unique roles, such as scheduling, college and career guidance, report cards, Act 77 flexible pathways, school relations, attendance, college visits, dual enrollment, school tours, academic advisement. You can see where they overlap with the work-based learning coordinator, where there's field trips, apprenticeship development. And again, I'm not going to read it all. And the business office has unique tasks, such as payroll oversight, and center-wide budget, and accounts payable. And that overlaps with the workforce and ed, where there is course pricing, grant management, adult ed payroll, and staff hires. The workforce ed coordinator, Rob, grant applications with WIO and VSAC, regional representation on boards, and you can see there's overlap with some daytime adult ed students and workforce needs and placement of adult students. So what I'm trying to get through with this is none of these positions can operate in a silo by themselves. It just not going to work that way. They all have unique roles, but there's blending and overlap for all the positions. And I could put layer on top of layer over layer on this, but this is just representation of these positions, and of course with the overarching front office support, which is Tiffany Martin and Sandy Redding, who have a piece in somewhere in all of this at all times with something. So I certainly want to recognize that. It's the last bubble I could put on there without making it like a bigger flip chart. So this was very helpful for us as administrators as an exercise to develop this, and for in our own minds about where we see things fitting together. And we shared this with faculty and staff last Friday at our professional development, and I think I saw a lot of light bulbs come on and click, like, oh, that's, now I'm going to put this on my wall. I'm like, okay, well, that's good. You know, it's a model, it's not the exact, again, every role that everyone has, but that's how we see these positions working together. And I also thought it'd be helpful for the board to see it as we've discussed it in isolation as positions, but not necessarily as an organization. So I hope that's helpful, and I'm happy to answer any questions off of it.
Can you put names on these?
I could. Yep. Generally, when we do job descriptions and things like this, we try to, you know, because names can change in positions, but if it's helpful to the board, I can put a name on there. That's totally fine. And this is kind of we've put it out for you to see, and you know, it's I would call it a working document that can change, but.
The reason I ask, Mike, is because occasionally people say to you, well who does that, and how do, who?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep, that's not a problem. Other than that, for the remainder of my report, we have, this is a big month for us. We've been doing a lot of field trips, a lot of industry tours, college visits. This is our recruiting season coming up with the middle school. We have activities there on Wednesday, and then 8th grade tours will be coming through in a couple weeks, where we spend basically three full days touring 8th grade students. And so the outreach this week at the middle school is not just focused on 8th grade, it's focused also on a couple lower grades, but you know, it's our most important recruiting event, and I say it every year, but it's true. The 8th grade tours, although a lot of work and very disruptive, quite frankly, to the classroom for teachers, everyone sees the value in it. So.
Last fall, there was talk about state permitting sophomores to get into our 2-year programs. Yep. Did anything come of that?
So officially, no. I believe in, and I could be misspeaking, we at our center see a fair amount of 10th grade students already in our programs, a lot more than most centers. I'd have to look at the legislation. There are so many moving pieces to it. They talked about entitling or allowing career and tech ed for 9 through 12 instead of 11 to 12 because high schools don't have to send students to tech centers below 11th grade. We are very fortunate in that respect that with our intro classes and our programs, you know, Anthony does, we serve a lot of 10th grade students, and that also leads to a lot of those students staying with us for 3 years instead of 2. They come back for a 3rd year. So to answer your question directly, Ed, I don't know if it got addressed factually in legislation, but I know it was still talked about. There's so many acts and white papers to keep up on about who's thinking about what day.
Yeah. Well, my thinking was that if the state permitted that, we could bring them in as sophomores into a 2-year program, and then if they decide they've completed their graduation requirements halfway through the senior year and want to drop out, they'll still have completed the program here.
Yep, I mean, our goal is to have students stay for the entire program, whether that's a 2-year or a 3-year. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
I don't know if anybody else does, but
I agree.
Well,
that's all I have.
You're all done?
Yep.
Okay, is there any other business that we should talk about at this meeting?
do we need to replace Rob, or do we want to wait for the
We gotta wait.
election?
2 months. Yeah.
No, no.
Scott, anybody have any concerns about replacing Rob?
January, February, March.
Yeah.
We
Technically,
have
4 months.
something in our ethics or something that speaks to that.
Yes,
So that you
technically,
need to look it over and just, it's in the bylaws for us on the
Right.
site. So
Yeah,
as
so
long
the-
as we're following the bylaws.
So the board can choose to leave the seat, not a position, the seat open on the board until the next general election, which will be in March. Or the board can appoint somebody the remainder of the term, but then the seat's still open in March, so someone would have to run in March. So it's up to the board, but it's not that far away, quite frankly. March seems like a long way, but it's not that far.
Would it be proper for anybody to make a motion that we leave the seat open until March?
Well, I would think that if we had an opportunity to get another interesting person, it may not be bad to go out and look for one, and they be appointed, and they may run. And that's my looking at it, but that's, I mean,
Next month, people have to get their paperwork out anyways, to get their nomination papers,
2 months.
whoever's running again, so, I mean,
Short time.
it doesn't make a lot of sense.
okay.
As if you'd, to me, I just leave it like it is, and then have them, if they're serious, go through the hoops like everybody else
Is it
does.
your motion?
I
don't know if you need a motion or not, just the consensus maybe more.
thought there was a provision in law that said we have to appoint somebody within a certain time period of it becoming
No.
vacant.
No.
No?
I don't hear no motion, so.
Well, if somebody in the public wants to submit their name along with the resume and qualifying information, I think we should consider it. And if nobody shows up, then leave it open until the general election.
If that's your motion, say it. Said?
They'd have to hand in their qualifying information and hand Cassie and the nomination
Well,
papers to Rob.
we could put a limit on it. This is the beginning in November, so if we don't have a viable candidate by the end of November, then we leave the position open until the general election.
Not getting very far with this, am we?
And I'm not trying to sway the board either way. Our next board meeting is not till December 10th.
Correct.
A scheduled full board meeting, so that weighs in anyone's decision.
If somebody were to
Yeah, it does.
volunteer between now and then, otherwise we can bring it up at the next meeting to leave open or whatever, but as long as the public is aware of the fact that it's a possibility, or if somebody knew someone and suggested it to them that maybe they'd want to be involved, either way.
I'm getting consensus that we just want to leave it open and shoot from the hip.
Well, we'll table it until the next December meeting.
Until the December meeting, if we don't have anybody involved by that
Okay.
point, then we'll just let it, at that point, we can make a motion to leave it open until the election.
Okay, it's table. Table it until December. Any other discussions? Seeing none, I have a motion to call this meeting to
Second.
motion by Fran, second by Ken.
All in favor?
All in favor, raise your right hand. We're done.